Happy 4th of July, everybody. It's Peg. I am back here at the History Shelf to show you a 4th of July book haul, courtesy of the Naval Institute Press. I ordered these books from their clearance sale a couple weeks ago, and kind of teased you guys that these books were coming, and I'm finally making the video. I ordered about 6 books from their Clear the Decks sale, clearance sale. They have a lot of amazing naval and maritime history books that are just ridiculously marked down. So I've got 6 books, so this shouldn't be a very long video, so you guys can get out there, barbecue, watch fireworks from a safe distance, and all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's start with the first book I got. This is Fighting Spirit, the memoirs of Major Yoshitaka Hori and the Battle of Iwo Jima. I enjoy reading war memoirs of not only American servicemen and women, but also memoirs of soldiers on the other side of the fight, of the battles, and enemies in this case. So Major Yoshitaka Hori was one of the 4 Japanese field grade officers who was directly involved with the Battle of Iwo Jima, and one of the few to survive the campaign. And these are his memoirs. It says here, Hori's book was first published in Japan in 1965 on the 20th anniversary of the battle. It was his desire to have it published in English, but he passed away in 2003 before seeing his dream realized. So I'm really intrigued by this. He's got like lists of people involved, and it's about 168 page memoir, but we've got pictures of him and his fellow soldiers. I just love this. I love stuff like this, and I love seeing other countries, how they mobilized for war, how they fought war, and what their philosophy on war was and is. I should say this is edited and annotated by Robert D. Eldridge and Charles W. Tatum. Charles Tatum was a Marine veteran of the Battle of Iwo Jima, so he's a co-editor on this. I find that very there's a symmetry to that. There's a symmetry. I think all soldiers can relate to other soldiers. Doesn't matter what side you're on. When you've been in battle, it's a brotherhood of sorts. So, Fighting Spirit. Then I got a book on a little short volume on the history of the Persian Gulf and the Great Powers, and it's called Imperial Crossroads, the Great Powers and the Persian Gulf, edited by Jeffrey R. Macris and Saul Kelly. And again, all these books are published by Naval Institute Press. This is just a very brief, but from what I've already looked at, it's this collection of essays, I should say, by different authors, looking at the strategic importance of the Persian Gulf over time and in history, relating to the Great Powers. Beginning with, we kind of cover Portugal, Holland, Britain, and the U.S., and later on we've got a couple on China and India, because now that's really, this was written in, this was compiled in 2012, so, China and India are definitely big movers now in that area and geopolitically. So, yeah, we've got some essays on the Great Game and Power Projection, the Dutch in the Persian Gulf, like I said, China's historic return to the Gulf, India's Monroe Doctrine in the Gulf. So a nice little collection just to kind of, bone up on the Persian Gulf and what we're doing there. And yeah, Imperial Crossroads. Okay, so the next book um, I got mostly because I love the author, and I do collect his work. He has written extensively on naval history, um, on many American wars. His most recent books have been on the, I think he wrote the, well, I know he did. I'm trying to remember the name, though. I think it's the Global, World War II at Sea, A Global History, I think, but it's Craig L. Simons, and I love him. And this is a little known, but it's a Blue Jacket Books version, which is one of these imprints that Naval Institute Press does. It makes affordable, like, classics, naval classics, in just a nice paperback version, and they all have this blue banner that goes across. And I have another Blue Jacket book, so I'm going to show next. But anyway, this is Confederate Admiral, The Life and Wars of Franklin Buchanan. And then that's another book that Craig Simons wrote, was Lincoln and His Admirals. So he's just written a ton of fabulous books. I learned of him mostly through my Civil War reading, and I read one of his books on the early Civil War naval engagements, and then I moved into then it's like now he's writing about World War II, and I was like, okay, fabulous. But this is a little smaller entry into his oeuvre on Franklin Buchanan, and of course I don't think he was, it doesn't say in the back of the book. When I first saw it, I'm like, was this James Buchanan's brother, the president? But it doesn't say that. But it's been blurbed by James McPherson of Battle Cry of Freedom fame. And this was, again, like I said, older book, so this was written 1999. And it won the 1999 John Lyman Book Award for Best Biography. And it's about the career of the Naval Academy's first superintendent and the Confederate Navy's first admiral. So Buchanan was the Confederacy's only full admiral, and he commanded the ironclad Virginia in the Battle of Hampton Roads and the Tennessee at Mobile Bay against Farragut. This is going to be a really good read. And it's a short little read. It's 231 pages. Life and Wars of Franklin Buchanan. There's a picture of the man. And I love me some Civil War history, and this was like, how much was this one? $3.79 for a brand new paperback. So I had to have that. Okay, another Blue Jacket book that I picked up, and I think this is a classic. This was originally written 1991. For some reason, I think it might be older, but it doesn't say. To the Shores of Tripoli, The Birth of the U.S. Navy and Marines by A.B.C. Whipple. So I'm wondering if Mark at Richardson Reads has this book. Again, just this is a nice little rousing history of the formation of the Navy and the Marines, and just how the Marines eventually split off from the Navy. I've always been intrigued by how that happened, and there was definitely a rivalry going on after that happened. I think, what was it? A Few Good Men? When A Few Good Men, when Tom Cruise is he's interrogating, or he's talking to a Marine played by Kiefer Sutherland, and Kiefer Sutherland's he's giving him a hard time, and Tom Cruise, who plays a Navy guy, is like, "Did I do something to offend you?" And Kiefer Sutherland's like, "No, not at all. I like you Navy boys. Whenever we have to go fight, you guys give us a ride." It's a good story. So, anyway, this kind of starts with the Barbary War. when the, as it says here, it was America's first battle against Arab despots who had taken American sailors hostage, and Jefferson sent the Navy over. Um, um, and it talks about the establishment of the U.S. Navy Marine Corps to replace the disabled Continental Navy. We've got figures in here such as Edward Preble, who commanded the first naval forces into battle, and then Stephen Decatur, and then a bunch of other like colorful characters. Yeah, gonna be a great read about the Barbary Wars, the Tripoli Pirates. ABC Whipple, Blue Jacket Books. And that was only $6.50. So yay. Okay, so another book I picked up. This was written or published in 1979. I just love the inside drawing. This is Far China Station, the U.S. Navy in Asian Waters, 1800 to 1898, by Robert Irwin Johnson. So my friend Lawrence Westwood, who writes fabulous historical fiction, detective fiction set in China. Wondering if you have this or if you've read it. Let me know what you think. When I saw this book, I thought of you, so I was like, oh, I should get this book. And then look at this nice line artwork in the beginning, or in the opening pages. So it just seems like a book. Everyone, not everyone, but if I'm really kind of boning up on America's naval history, this is it's part of the world that's pretty strategic and important. And knowing the history of what we did there is very indicative of what we're doing now, or at least it gives you the context. Context is king, for me at least. And it says here, Far China Station was the first work to put 19th century American naval and diplomatic affairs in the Far East into clear perspective. Johnson examines the origins of the East India Squadron, defines its important role in the implementation of foreign policy, and describes the dangers routinely faced by the squadron ships and sailors. And then huge, really interesting cast of characters and the ships involved. So Far China Station, and that one was only $4.99. Okay, guys, so I have two more books left, and one of them is another Blue Jacket book, which was the most expensive of the bunch, but really, it's a classic. I think you're gonna like it. So I'm gonna save the best for last. The next one is a hardcover. Got for $6.40. And this is Bankrupting the Enemy, the U.S. Financial Siege of Japan Before Pearl Harbor, by Edward S. Miller. Now, in my studies of World War II and the events leading up to it, especially on books that were particularly on Pearl Harbor, like, did FDR know and all this kind of stuff. And no, he didn't. But they thought the Japanese were going to attack somewhere. They just didn't know where, and they thought it might be the British, a British installation in one of the other islands, because they were throttling the Japanese with I think it was the oil embargo, and Japan was just choking. They needed access to oil, and yeah, let me just read it. Oh, it's a really cool. I like that. Anyway, let me just read this to you really quick, because I've always found this interesting, that it was basically Japan feeling like they had no other alternative than to attack because of the financial stranglehold the U.S. was putting upon the country. But let me go ahead and just read this to you real quick. So, award-winning author Edward Miller contends that the United States forced Japan into international bankruptcy to deter its aggression. While researching newly declassified records, the retired chief financial executive of a Fortune 500 resources corporation uncovered just how much money mattered. The Japanese government had a huge cache of dollars fraudulently hidden in New York that, once discovered, it scrambled to extract. Oh, that's right, they froze their money. That's what it was. But in July 1941, President Roosevelt froze the money in an effort to bring Japan to its senses, not its knees. His intentions were thwarted, however, by opportunistic bureaucrats who maneuvered to deny Japan the dollars needed, right, okay, to buy oil and other resources for its economic survival. So that's accurate about the oil. Miller's analysis of pre-war documents, including a massive OSS State Department study, clearly demonstrates that the deprivations facing the Japanese people as a result of the freeze buttressed Japan's choice of war at Pearl Harbor. All right, so yeah, this looks awesome. Oh, he's got a lot of charts in here. I think David Murphy might enjoy some of the financial charts and stuff. Wow, he definitely is very detailed and has his resources put together here for this. Extensive bibliography and notes. Love it. It's about a 250-page read, but a great addition to my World War II and the run-up to World War II studies. So, Bankrupting the Enemy by Edward Miller. Did I tell you when it was? This came out in 2007. Okay. All right. All right, guys, so the last book I picked up, it's an oldie but a goodie, and I think I've heard Mark Richardson, and I know Steve is a big fan of this writer as well, Steve and Mark. This is Samuel Eliot Morrison's John Paul Jones, A Sailor's Biography, Blue Jacket Books edition. This one was $10.50, but I thought, you know what, it's worth it because it's a brand new soft cover, no remainder marks, and I think this is the I think this is the standard, considered the standard classic for a John Paul Jones biography. Correct me if I'm wrong, any of you John Paul Jones experts out there. But Samuel Eliot Morrison, who in one of my other videos from a while back, I showed you the huge set that I bought of his naval operations in World War II. So I have that complete set, and I saw John Paul Jones, and I said, you know what, this needs to go with my other Samuel Eliot Morrison's. But yeah, I don't know a lot about John Paul Jones, so I figured this is the guy to go to, is Morrison, to read about him. So this is the one I picked up for about a little over $10. It's almost a 500-page biography. Got some maps in here, and just very nice print. Doesn't take up the full page, actually, so it's probably read faster than it looks. But yeah, so then I got John Paul Jones, guys. Blue Jacket Books. So that is my Naval Institute Press 4th of July history haul. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back again soon with another video, and I hope you're all going to stay safe out there, enjoy the festivities, and yeah, let me know what you think of these books. If you've read any of them, I'd be happy to know. And until next time, BookTube, ciao.